Hi everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. You're here for another installment of my 2021 Dollar Tree calendar series. And today I'm going to be using the Be Brave calendar. I'm going to be using the fall white pumpkin out of the main body of the calendar. Now I did trim this. It ends up being about 10, a little over 10 and a quarter. I trimmed it so that I would cut off the hole at the top, and then I just trimmed it to kind of be square. Now another thing you're going to need, I have this frame from the Dollar Tree. It is one of these, multiple photo frames, and it just happens to measure 12 by 12. Now I dropped it out in the parking lot and broke the glass, so we're going to go without this, with this having no glass on it. So I'm going to set that aside. I also have one of these self-adhesive wall tiles, also from the Dollar Tree. These are kind of cool. I've had it for a little bit and I haven't used it, so I was kind of thinking something along the lines of this project to do it with. And it's got a clear plastic backing on it, so that you can adhere it to whatever you're doing. Now I'm thinking that I might just adhere it to this backing piece of the picture frame, and I'm looking to see how it will match up. Oh good, it looks like it'll be right about the exact size. Awesome. But the first thing I want to do, because this is really dark and this is more muted gray tones, I want to give a little whitewash to the tile, and I'm hoping that it will work. So I'm going to use a stencil brush to do it, and I've got some paint left over from when I did my fall bead garland, and it's just been sitting on my desk for like a week and it's still wet and gloopy. So I'm going to give this a try, and I'm going to have a paper towel handy, and we're just going to brush it on. And right now it looks pretty thick, and that's okay. I'm going to do one plank at a time. I'm going to get this out of here so it doesn't get messy. And I'm just using the wrapper as my protection for my desk. Okay. And then I'm going to take the paper towel and I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm just liking that little graying effect on there. I'm liking the way that the white is settling into the grout, and I think I'm just going to continue doing this the whole way through. I'll let that dry for a couple of minutes. So this is working on being dry. I'm going to go ahead and stick it down to the backing that came with the picture frame. So I'm just peeling the backing off of the block, and I want to make sure that it's going to go side to side. I'm just paying attention to where my hanger is, and I want my planks to go side to side so it looks a little bit like shiplap or brick. And I'm just pressing it down. Wow, I definitely would not use this as a backsplash. That is so loose. It's just weird, but that's what that's for. Okay, now I need to put Mod Podge on this. Normally when I Mod Podge, I put Mod Podge on the base piece and on the picture that I'm going to be using. But because I have seen several calendar projects talked about on Facebook and whatnot, they are complaining about how thin the calendar pages are and that they are wrinkling terribly with Mod Podge. I'm going to give it a shot with Mod Podge, but I'm going to use a thin coat, and I'm not going to put it on the pumpkin. On with the Mod Podge, and it's going to go over the entire surface, and that will help to seal in the paint that I just put on it. The tricky part of this is going to be getting it on straight with all these little grooves and whatnots on there. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, and then I'm going to press it down. And where it gets sucked down into the grooves, I'm going to be totally okay with that because that's kind of the look I want. Okay. I'm pressing it into those grooves because I actually kind of want it to be there. And if it tears a little bit, I think that might actually add to it a little. I might actually take something and press into those grooves that's kind of sharp so that it will break the paper a little. I want this distressed look. I need one of those old sewing roller thingies. A piece of wire off of a... Oh yeah, look at that. I want to be careful because this is red and I don't want any red to roll off on there. I do want those breaks in there. I think I kind of like that. If you don't like that and you want it to try to be smooth, then don't do this part, okay? It's not necessary. It's just something, it's the look I'm going for. If it's not your look, don't do it. I want this to look like weathered wood a little bit. This is off of one of those metal Dollar Tree 4th of July farm trucks. Yard stakes is what this wire's from. You could use any wire, anything round. If you had an embossing tool with a big ball on it, you could do that. Okay. Oops. That was not a good move. Alright. Well, some people will say I ruined this by putting those grooves in there, but I don't think so. I like it. So you do what you like. If you don't like the rustic look where things are tattered and torn and a little bit wrinkled, then absolutely don't do that. Just put it on there, decoupage it on, and let it be. Alright, now I'm going to take some decoupage over the top. Normally with something this thin, I would just go ahead and let it dry completely. Be careful not to touch it like I just did because it's getting sticky and your fingers will stick to it. So I'm making sure that I get plenty of Mod Podge underneath the edge of my calendar, and then I'm just kind of pushing down with my brush. I'm not going to be having glass over the top of this because remember I dropped it in the parking lot. So I want to make sure that the edges on this are really stuck down. I am embracing the little wrinkles. I think that it actually enhances the background of this, and I think it's good. I like it. I'm okay with the small wrinkles. Just make sure you get all those edges sealed in, and where the paper broke here, where I broke it on purpose, make sure you get plenty in there as well. You want that to stick down. We're going to come back in and distress it with some paint in a little bit after this Mod Podge dries, but I just want to make sure that this paper is really stuck down. And then I need to let it dry completely before I try to distress it with paint. And I would not take your heat gun tool to this to try to dry it, because I'm afraid that the plastic of this peel and stick tile would just puff up or shrivel up and melt. Okay, so don't put any heat on this. Let it dry naturally. And I figure, well, if I mess this up, I did buy a second calendar, so if I mess this one up, I can go back and try it again. Okay, I'm not out that much money, just out time. It's not a big deal. Okay, here I need to make sure that I've got plenty of Mod Podge under the edge. Smush it down with my brush. I like to paint against the edge of the paper when I'm sealing it down like this, because it's going to be exposed, and I want that Mod Podge to really get in there. Okay. I'm interested to see how this is going to dry on this textured block. I'm just poking my brush down into all of the cracks in between the planks, just to make sure that I've got the paper really sticking down in there, especially where I broke the paper, so that, you know, it will look more like shiplap once it's dry, I hope. I kind of want to see a little bit of that brown peeking through, like right here, because it makes it look more like shiplap. Alright, I'm going to let this sit for about an hour till it's completely dry, and then I'll come back and show you what we're going to do next. So this is dried. It needed a little longer than an hour, so it ended up being drying overnight for me. So you just want to make sure that it is totally and completely dry before you start this next step. And I'm loving how the cracks came in. I'm just loving how this is starting to look. But some of the places didn't crack as well, like down here on the bottom. So I want to put a little shading into there. And for that, I'm going to start with my lightest gray that I have, which is Nimbus. And it's part of the Waverly Chalk Paint line. I shook it up so that I've got some in the lid. And I've got a little bit of water over here in a cup. And I'm just going to get my brush really, really wet and just dip barely into that gray. And then I'm going to go along the line. Now I'm grabbing my antique wax, and it's almost gone, so I'm going to shake it down into the lid. I need to get some more, but I just haven't had it in stock. Alright. I'm using that same cup of water, and I'm using my same brush, and I'm just going into the lid. I don't ever worry about stirring water into my chalk paint, because it'll be fine. If it gets too thick, you stir water into it anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Alright, and then into the paint and water mixture that's already in the lines. And then into the water cup just to smooth it out. Also, take a paper towel and blot it dry. Yeah, I like that better. Blotted dry a little bit. I'm not looking for a sharply defined line on this. More of a shadowing. Just getting some darkness in there so that you can see the shiplap shine through. I'm trying not to rub too much because that is affecting the paper, so I'm just trying to blot. Dressing is a lot about putting it on and taking it back off. I just want like the shadow of it in there. And I'm not stopping at the edge of my paper when I'm putting this brown in. I'm going clear to the edge of the wall tile. Alright, I think that I am liking how that looks, and I think I'm going to stop. So I need to give this time to dry. I am liking how this is looking, and I am going to stop with it right there. The only other thing I'm thinking I might like to do is a little bit of distressing, I guess, around a dry brushing around the edge. Now I'm happy with it. Now I stop. Alright, I like having that little extra darkness around the edge of the wood. Some people are probably going to complain that I ruined my beautiful white pumpkin, but I have a couple of copies of this calendar, so it's not going to be the end of the world. So now I'm going to just pop it back into this frame from the Dollar Tree. If the tabs fall out, I just take them and I try to put them back into the same hole. And then go ahead and push it down. Alright, let's see how it turned out. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry completely because it still feels a little wet, and then we're going to put some pretties down here on the bottom. I'm really liking, let's see if we can get this a little bit more so you can see the whole thing. I'm really liking how this is turning out. Okay, I like that brown distress around the edge of the paper on the pumpkin, and I love the shiplap look. Okay, and then framed out with black just finishes it off. If you didn't want the black, you could paint it white. That would work too. Alright, so as soon as this is good and dry, we'll come back and we'll decorate it a little more. This has had time to dry, and I'm really loving how it's looking. But I want to put some greenery, a little pumpkin magic down here at the bottom. I went to Dollar Tree to try to find some of the picks that they have in with the white pumpkins and the muted colors, and I couldn't find any. As a matter of fact, they didn't even have any of these pumpkin things left. So these are 3 little pumpkins I had left over from another project. Oh, you know what? I just had a great idea. This is the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I am going to, it's just a, I don't know, 2-foot piece maybe, 3-foot. And I'm just going to separate out the strands real quick. And I don't know if my wacky idea is going to work. I'm going, you know how I make the bundle bows with the jute? I'm going to attempt a bundle bow with this. And I'm thinking I need to make it a little bigger than my hand. I am using one of these bamboo cutting boards from the Dollar Tree as my card to wrap it around, kind of like I would wrap around with my fingers, just because I need it to be wider. And I'm trying to get all the pieces to start and stop in the same spot. That one does not. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to pull this off, and I'm trying to just pull, make sure that all of the ends are in the middle. I've never done this before, so I do not know for sure if this is going to work. We're going to figure it out together. I'm going to take a piece of my heavier jute twine. And I'm going to tie a knot. Making sure that this is centered. And I'm going to tie that knot firmly. Okay. Now I've got all these random pieces that are falling out because of the ends not coming all together. I'm thinking it also needs some of this buffalo check because, well, because it's buffalo check. I know, I'm a weirdo when it comes to buffalo check. So I'm thinking if I have buffalo check crisscrossed here with this in the middle, thinking if I'm going to go with the buffalo check that I need to be neater about my bow. So I'm going to cut these hanger pieces off. And again, I'm just experimenting here. I've never made a bow like this out of this much twine before. Alright. And so if I gather this all up, so I've got 3 pieces and I'm making an X, and then I'm putting the 3rd piece across the middle. I'm just kind of adjusting them so they're all there. And then I'm just kind of pinching and gathering to bring it together in the middle. And I think I'm going to actually go ahead and I was just going to tie it together with that bow, but I think I'm going to tie it as a bundle on its own. I think it'll be easier to work with in the long run. And I'm just checking to make sure that my tie is in the middle. And then I'm going to fluff it out so that I see all 3 pieces. And then I want to make sure that my knot on this ribbon is on the back of the ribbon. Okay, and then I'm going to take my bundle of nautical rope, my bundle bow, And I'm going to take my thicker jute. You can use the dollar store jute. I'm just out of dollar store jute. And lately my dollar store hasn't had it. I was there today and they didn't have any. So I'm just going to put some on the back, hold it with my finger, and I'm going to wrap to cover that center knot on my bow. Okay, I'm just wrapping. And I'm wrapping the bow and the ribbon together. I'm just making that center piece, like where the knot of the bow would sit. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. And I'm going to pull my ribbon every which way. And then I have this little tail of ribbon sticking out from what I tied my, little string of twine from where I tied the ribbon bundle together. And so I'm just going to tie it with that. I've got these extra strings, they just need to go away. Okay, so here is the bow that I have created. I kind of like it with that wiggly looking Dollar Tree nautical rope separated out, and I can glue this at the bottom, and I think it's going to look nice. Just have some strings I'm going to cut. Alright, now I need to decide if I want to tuck any greenery in there. Okay, so I need to decide. I'm wondering about this little pumpkin. This is just a Dollar Tree pumpkin, and I'm wondering if I can just glue him on there. So if I glue the bow kind of low down to the edge of the frame, then that leaves a space between the bow and the bottom of this pumpkin. Then I can tuck in a little bit of lamb's ear and a little white pumpkin right there. And then if I want to, I don't know, if I want a little pop of orange on there, which, ooh, I kind of like how that's brightening that up. Just kind of tuck those in. I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, time to get the glue gun out. So the first thing I'm going to glue down is actually going to be this piece, because it needs to go under the bow. And so I lifted my bow off to see where it was sitting. And I'm going to put a fair amount of glue in there. And I'm going to kind of pull it and spread it out and hold it down. Let that set a little bit. And then I've got to put a big clop of glue on there to hold this big chunky bow. I'm loving how this bow turned out. I've never ventured to make a bow with the nautical rope like that. But it's just another spin on the bundle bow, really. You just can't wrap it around your fingers because it's not... Wrapping it around my fingers didn't make the loops of the bow big enough to be able to handle this chunky rope. Alright, and I'm going to hopefully not melt my pumpkin here. And I'm going to glue it down. I always worry when I put hot glue on a styrofoam piece. I need to get some low temp or a multi-temp glue gun for pieces like this. Now I need to decide if I'm going to leave that little stick on the bottom and glue from there, if that will make it easier or harder. I think it's okay if I... Oh, I'm smelling melting styrofoam. That's not a good smell. Okay, in goes my little orange pumpkin. I just like this little tiny pumpkin, just gives it that little bit of color, just a tiny bit, not a lot. And I'm just spinning the little dowel stick and getting the glue on there. I'm going to tip my pumpkin to the side a little and poke that in. Just hold it there until it, there we go. I think I'm really liking the looks of that bow setup at the bottom. Things are not quite hard yet down there. Just going to tuck a little more glue down in there to make things sit a little better. Things are not feeling solid. And I'm hoping that my pumpkins aren't just melting away. That's my worry, is that the bottom of this one is just disintegrated. Yep, kind of looks like it. Well, I guess it will be what it will be. As it cools, it'll harden up. Okay, I think I'm done with that. I don't really want to go any farther and get it too much. Yeah, I think any more would be too much. If you wanted to, you could put little tails hanging off down here, but honestly, I don't think it really needs it. Alright, let me set this up to look pretty and I'll be right back. Alright guys, there you have it, another calendar project using the 2021 Dollar Tree calendar art. Let me know what you think about this project in the comment section below. Is it something you might try to make? I really like how the pumpkin is cracked with the shiplap. Some people are going to say that's too much and that I ruined that beautiful art. To each his own. I like it this way. In fact, I'm just kind of thinking it might also need a little more definition around the outside edges of the pumpkin, just to brighten it up just a little bit more, to make it a little more solid. But I do like it exactly the way it is too. So, and I like that little touch of orange down on the bottom just to make it pop. Alright, tell me what you're thinking. If you like this project, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And let me know if you're going to see if you can find the items to make this. Remember that this piece of art came out of the Be Brave calendar for October, and that's where you'll be able to find that if you wish to recreate this. And then it's just a peel and stick wall tile, and that was found in the hardware section. It was kind of where the laundry stuff is, actually. My Dollar Tree has the laundry section and the hardware section kind of together, so that's where I found that peel and stick tile. Alright, let me know what you're thinking. This has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.